And welcome to the Behind the Dunes podcast. I'm your host, Connor, and today I'm here with one of Dune's newest agents, Deb Thompson.
Hello.
Deb,
Thank
it's
you.
a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So why don't you give yourself a little introduction for the people who might not know you?
Yeah, I'm Deb Thompson. I am a realtor here at Dunes and live in the Bluffton area with my husband and my two mini Australian Shepherds.
Oh.
Yeah.
How old are your Australian Shepherds?
They're 7 and 9. Don't remind me. They're growing up way too fast.
I feel like Australian Shepherds are those breeds, like they're very social and like
they're nuts. They are and they aren't. The funny thing is, like, we had a big party at our house and I had to put a note on the front door that said, "Hi, we're Sophie and Zoe," with their pictures. And it said, "We will be your best friends. Just do not make eye contact with us." Because when you make eye contact with them, they go berserk. But otherwise, they're giving you kisses and, so.
Actually, now that you say that, my best friend, his parents have, I think, 2 or 3 of them. And the same thing.
Yep.
Like if you look at them, they're just like, they start freaking out. But other than that.
Right.
Yeah. That's funny. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. Yes. And I was there for most of my life. And in 2014, we decided to move out of state. So
what made you decide to choose South Carolina?
Well, that's an interesting question, Connor, because we actually came to South Carolina by way of Arizona.
Oh.
So we went from Ohio to Arizona. And full disclosure, I buy houses for my dogs. So my husband and I don't have any children, so those are my children. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a family that always had animals, and I'm so grateful for that. So in Ohio, in Cincinnati, we were taking our Irish setter and golden retriever, who were seniors, to the dog park, and it became problematic because dogs would bump into them, and they were frail and had arthritis, and so it just kind of morphed into, why don't we go out west? I went to Arizona State University for a little while, and my sister-in-law lives out there. I said, why don't we go out there and we can get a house with a pool, and that way they have their own little paradise. They can get their water therapy. So we did that. We were out there for 5 years, and but it was too far from family. And I told my husband, just get me somewhere on the East Coast. And he said, well, I'm going to throw something out there. He's a foodie.
Okay.
So he likes to cook. And he said, I found this place on the Food Network called Bluffton, South Carolina. And I said, Bluffton, where's that? And he said, it's by Hilton Head. I go, oh, well, Hilton Head is the capital of Ohio. So, of course, I know where that is.
Glad you said it.
Yeah. So we flew out here on President's Day weekend. That was in 2019. And bought a house that weekend, and specifically bought a house in May River Preserve because it's half-acre lots in there. And as I said, I buy houses for my dogs because my Irish setter and golden retriever had crossed over the Rainbow Bridge, and now we had our mini Australian Shepherds. And the one, Zoe, the younger one, is an athlete. I bought her an agility course, and like the first day, she was like, okay, what's next? Jumps, all of that kind of stuff. So
love that.
Yeah. So it, that brought us here.
So going back a little bit, you pretty much stayed in Ohio majority of the beginning part of your life, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you go to college?
I did.
Where'd you go?
Yeah. I went to the University of Cincinnati.
Okay. How was that?
Great. Loved it. Big UC girl. Got my undergraduate and my graduate degree there. No, it was a great school. I loved it.
What did you major in?
I majored in secondary education.
Okay.
But with a focus on Spanish.
Really?
Yeah. So I was a Spanish teacher. When the market crashed in 2008, I was in real estate at the time, and I decided to go back to school and finish and follow my childhood dream of being a teacher. And I took up Spanish as a hobby because my husband and I traveled quite a bit extensively through Mexico and some of the other countries.
Okay.
And I just took it up as a hobby. I said, you know what? I want to learn to speak Spanish. I took 3 years in high school and excelled at it. And so I did. So I would work full time. And then at night, I would go to the little community college and take classes. And then that morphed into, why don't I just get a degree? And so I did.
That's awesome. How long did you teach for?
13 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I taught for 8 years in Ohio and 4 years in Arizona, and that by far was my favorite. I loved teaching in Arizona. And then 1 year here at Bluffton High School.
How would you say the difference between the schools in like Ohio, Arizona, and then with your brief time here? Like,
yeah, so Ohio was very on the forefront, leading the pack for the nation. It seemed like they were always, the first in line to try any new technology, new ideas, new curriculums, that sort of thing. The kids were at that particular school I was at, which was called Milford High School. They were really, signed up for AP classes. They were very ambitious. And I liked that because I liked the curriculum at that school because I could, what you call, loop with your students. So if I had them for Spanish 2, then I could carry on with them in Spanish 3 and then Spanish 4 and even AP classes. And what that fulfillment that it gave me as a teacher is that they were basically fluent. I mean, I could watch their progress. I was very hands-on in the trenches. You have to, you're going to speak it, and we're going to learn it that way, not the grammar way. And then to piggyback on that, I did several student trips abroad.
Okay.
So did 2 to Costa Rica, 1 to Spain, and 1 to Ecuador. So it was.
How were those trips?
They were awesome. I always scheduled them. The first part of the trip was 2 days of sightseeing, history, that sort of thing. And then the middle part was family time. So we would stay with local families.
I love that.
That was hysterical, Connor. I would tell you, we would show up on the bus and all the families would be waiting out there. And all the families were neighbors, so we were all together.
Right.
But I would say, okay, grab your stuff. This is your family. And the kids would look at me like, wait, Senora, I'm supposed to go with them? And I'm like, yeah. And guess what? They don't speak English. So you need to use your Spanish that you learned in school. And that was always a very wonderful growth time for them.
I bet getting to experience the culture too, like
Yes.
firsthand, and not just like
Yes.
the culture of when you go to a place and go to like a resort. You're actually living with
You're
true
living,
locals.
you're participating in the family activities, doing chores, helping with dinner, helping with the kids, helping them with homework. And my husband went on one of those trips, and this was one of the coolest things. We went to, the soccer game was on, so we stayed with families also. And our host family, they didn't speak any English. My husband doesn't speak any Spanish except for the most important words like cerveza or baño or things like that. But Costa Rica was in the playoffs. And so the husband took my husband down to the local bar so they could watch the game. And he said that was one of the coolest experiences of his life because they were communicating, but they weren't communicating.
Yep. That's amazing.
So, yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. So, and the third part of the trip was always a reward for them because during the family stay, we would do service work of some sort.
Yeah.
And then we would go to the coast. In Costa Rica, we went to the coast and we stayed at a bed and breakfast, pool, beach, learn how to surf, that kind of stuff. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like that's super important for kids, especially when they're growing up, to like see not only how it is here or wherever they live, but being able to experience different cultures and learn different things. And it's really an eye opener for a lot of people when you go to certain places.
it is.
Like, oh, okay. Like you might complain that like, oh, there's traffic, but like, is that really the worst thing that's going to happen to you?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And that's really what they came away with from these trips. And it was also a great learning experience for their parents because a lot of them, they're attached to the hip. They've, everybody's got cell phones, blah, blah, blah. And they had to turn their cell phones off while in the other country. But they learned that, wow, there is another world outside of the United States, and there's another world of people, and we're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was.
I feel like
doing that.
I feel like kids and just people from America in general or other countries, like you can learn so much just by experiencing another person's culture
Yeah.
in their country,
Yeah.
and like not just going to, you know, like a resort or
Yeah.
tourist traps and stuff like that. It's
Yeah, for sure. When we went to Spain, I took a group of kids that I think I think a couple of the parents were using it as a boot camp almost, you know, and I didn't know that till we were there.
Right.
But anyway, I digress on that. But we went to Spain and we were touring some of the museums, and the security guard was like, you can't sit there. I want you to line up and I want you to stand, and that's it. And so the kids became a little lazy about it, and I kept telling them, no, you need to be quiet. You can't. And nope, we got kicked out. You know, they threw us out. We toured one of the churches there in Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
The girls had to buy shawls to put over their shoulders and around their waist because they were showing way too much skin. So it was a good lesson, you know, to see how other parts of the culture is in other parts of the world.
How much of Mexico have you traveled?
You know, geographically, not a lot.
Okay.
But I've been to Mexico 19 times, but mainly in the Playa del Carmen, Cancun area.
Okay.
And it's always been, you know, just for fun.
Okay.
For vacation and that sort of thing. And then Puerto Vallarta, I went there as well.
My wife is from Guanajuato.
Really?
Yep.
No me digas.
Yep. So we've
Do you speak some Spanish?
a little bit, not as much as I should.
That's
for
cool.
Being with her for nearly 6 years now.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
I get reminded of that all the time.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely need to practice more.
Well, and like I told you, my favorite teaching bit was in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the kids that I had there were, you know, they were from their families were from Mexico, but that was my favorite part. They were just.
It's one of my
fun.
favorite places in the entire world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always say Mexico has, you know, a small corner of my heart.
Yeah. I haven't been back in about a year, but we were going probably once or if not twice every year since we met. So
Oh, that's cool.
hoping to get back, take my parents there for the first time
Yeah.
so they can experience it.
Yeah.
So.
You know, it's interesting because growing up, my dad and my mom instilled a strong work ethic in me. And I always appreciate, you know, a strong work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my love for Spanish really started. When I lived in Arizona twice.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to Arizona State University, I worked at a Mexican restaurant there called Garcia's. And I just fell in love with the work ethic of especially the Hispanics that I was working with. Yep. They always had my back. My tables were always serviced. Their waters were filled, chips and salsa, all that kind of stuff. And so I started to have a real appreciation for it. And then through my travels, you know, I just fell in love with the language, the culture, the food. I love really spicy food. Do you?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm getting there. I wouldn't say really spicy.
Oh,
Some of the stuff my wife makes,
well, not the
concerns
habanero,
me.
but yeah. You know, but spicy food I love, and so that's how it morphed into becoming a Spanish teacher.
That's awesome. And then how did you go from that? Because you said your dream was being a teacher.
Yeah.
So then how did you go from being a teacher to getting into real estate?
Yeah. So I had 17 years in real estate before I became a teacher.
Okay.
So I'm showing my age here, but when 2008 happened, that's when I went back to school.
Got it. Got my timeline mixed up. Apologize.
Oh, that's okay. So, you know, I loved looping with my students at Milford High School in Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. That was great. And then when I went to Arizona, I loved that as well. But towards the end of my tenure at Arizona, in Arizona, you know, cell phones, smartphones became very, very prominent. Mm-hmm. And it was very difficult. The focus became more on being a babysitter and policing bullying and things like that. And it was very, very disheartening.
Yep.
And there were so many, the kids were lost. A lot of them were lost. And I found myself being a parent a lot of times. And then when I came to Bluffton High School, I just didn't like the block scheduling. I had taught block scheduling before in Cincinnati, but it was different block schedule, and like I said, I love a strong work ethic. And I just found that with the block scheduling and kids only having 4 classes a day, and, they would come in, no work done, and, not studying, and it just wasn't for me anymore. I just couldn't compete with the cell phones, and my heart wasn't in it. And I love real estate. So to be able to use Spanish and real estate at the same time, that's like the ultimate. So I just decided, and the other thing is COVID.
Yep.
COVID hit, and I was like, I'm out. I'm done. I was already very technologically inclined, so I had a lot of things online, websites, that sort of thing. So it was an easy transition for me, and I just, went into real estate from there.
I feel like that would have been the end of it for me too, if I was a teacher, having to go straight virtual the whole time, and hearing some of the stories that I heard about how that went for some people that I couldn't imagine how it was for you.
I went back to the school, and kudos to the administration there. I mean, I loved the Bluffton High School administration. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I loved my students that I had. I just didn't like the schedule. But I went back to turn in some things over the summer, and, when we were allowed to come back, and, they had one-way signs up in the hallways, and I'm like, what? Like, these kids are going to have to go, what? There's no way. There's no way. And, we were all lost at that time. And I thought, this is just not something I want to navigate.
School's also not set up to have one way.
Not at all. Yeah. Not
it's
at all.
It's not the most well-designed place.
Yeah. Yep.
So then after that, when you left teaching here, how was that journey into real estate in the Hilton and Bluffton surrounding area?
Very easy. Yep. Very easy. I'm a people person. I love I love helping people achieve their dreams, be it, whatever that is, but especially with real estate. So I went to work for a local builder here.
Okay.
And, made a lot of great friends through the build. I'm very customer service oriented, and I care about people. So that translates into, converts into a friendship. So
that's for sure.
Yep.
Like, just from our brief interaction today with your clients when we were taking photos of your listing, I would say all of those things you said are extremely true.
Oh, thanks.
So
yeah.
So then, were you doing majority of new home sales?
Yes, it was all new home sales with a local builder here. Mm-hmm. And in real estate, when you have your real estate license, you have to place your license with a certain brokerage, and you can only represent that brokerage. Mm-hmm. Well, I could only represent the builder. So what would happen is all of these relationships that I built, I sold 153 new homes over for really 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. So think of all of those relationships. Those people would call me and say, hey, we got to move back home. Can you sell our house? No, I can't. Mom and dad want to move down here. Can you help? No, I can't. So all of that eventually helped me to make the decision that I want to be able to help everyone. So that's why I left new construction.
That makes sense. I feel like that would be very difficult, especially you have all these relationships, and like you just said, trying to, like, somebody calls you for help and then basically being like, I can't.
Yeah.
That would suck.
Yeah.
So then you went to a different brokerage.
I did. Yep.
We won't name them. And then what brought you over to, was Dunes your hopefully final stop? Or was there anybody in between after you went from the new construction brokerage?
I went from new construction. There's an agent that sold several homes with me, mm-hmm. and she had come out with her team manager and their videographer mm-hmm. to do a video in my model home.
Okay.
And I was blown away with that. I was really impressed with it. I'm a big proponent of video and social media and that sort of thing, especially on behalf of my clients.
Right.
And I thought, if I ever leave, that's where I'm going to go, and I did. And, it was great. The problem for me is that the transition from new construction to general agency with regard to the logistics of paperwork and that sort of thing, I needed a lot of hand holding. And so that's not to fault the team I was on. It's a great team. The problem is that I need to be able to come in like with Daniel and sit down and say, hey, I want to make sure that I'm doing right by my clients. What kind of verbiage would you recommend on this contract?
Right.
What would you, and that you don't, because that particular model is what they call a cloud-based brokerage, meaning that there is no physical office. There's no one to go to. You have to do everything virtually.
Yep.
And at the time, that just did not work for me. And then when I discovered Dunes and the admin team that's here, you, Connor, Jessica, Kelly, everybody, I am blown away by the support. And that's just going to help me, be able to help more people.
How would you say your approach to helping, let's start with sellers first. How would you approach with the listing? Like, I don't want to say pitching it, but,
Yeah, marketing.
Yeah,
Marketing for a listing.
Yeah.
Well, it's very important that you know that I am an overachiever. I say that because I'm also the oldest. So those of you that are out there listening, if you're the oldest, you know exactly what I'm saying, that we are overachievers, and we normally don't ask for help. So I take on a lot of stuff myself, but I love working with sellers, with listings, because my marketing is very important. For example, today for the listing that we have coming on, we did, the photo shoot, we did the Matterport, which is the video walkthrough of the home in the exterior. We did the drone coverage. We did the amenity center. We did a video where I talked about the lifestyle and what it's like to live at that community. I mean, everybody can get information on Zillow and, Realtor and all that about, it's 1,700 square feet and 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, et cetera. But what's it like to live there? So that's what I like to show people. The other thing is I like to be there for my showings. So I want to be there and I want to explain that to the people. And for my buyer agent friends that are bringing people to see, I will not overstep my boundary. I just want to be there for you in case you have any questions, and that sort of thing. And then of course on social media. So I have a YouTube channel, 2 Instagram accounts, 2 Instagram accounts, and TikTok and Facebook and LinkedIn.
TikTok,
yes.
I think you were the first agent here that I've interviewed that has TikTok.
Really?
So
yeah, TikTok is kind of like, the fun social media.
it is fun.
Instagram's a little more serious.
Yeah, that's fun. I really like that you're there for the showings. I feel like that's very important on the behalf of your clients, because sometimes there are like little things that like the client might know about and you'll know about, but like the buyer's agent might not know about.
That's right.
And their clients definitely don't know about it. And if neither of them know about it and you're there to point it out, like that's huge, because that could be in some circumstances a deal breaker, if it's something that could be very important that might not be in the easily accessible information that, they could just Google or whatnot.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's huge.
It is very, very huge, because keep in mind, a lot of times these buyers are coming, they've seen 10 homes that day, and they all run together. You become overwhelmed. So I like to be there just to kind of like let them relax, show them, hey, like the listing we had today, that beautiful covered porch with that eastern exposure. They can go out there, bedhead and coffee cups, and have complete privacy and watch the sunrise and the herons and the egrets, hunting over the lagoon there. So those are the types of things that I like to point out.
I love that. Now, on the flip side, how do you present yourself to to buyers, like how you would for potential sellers or listing agents?
Yeah. So for buyers, I let them know that I've helped, I've been in this for 24 years collectively. I've helped 160-ish people just here in the Lowcountry buy homes, and that includes every walk of life.
Yep.
It can be somebody relocating from Ohio, Pennsylvania, any of the northern states, New York, New Jersey, et cetera, or it can be first-time home buyers. I have a ton of experience with first-time home buyers. I know I can anticipate the questions that they don't even know what to ask, if that makes sense. I tell people I'm your linebacker, right? I'm a huge Cincinnati Bengals fan, diehard, 31, 32 years being a Bengals fan, and this Joe Burrow era now. I'm like, I'm the linebacker for Joe Burrow, and you're my Joe Burrow. So I know what can happen during a transaction. And then, of course, the relocation aspect of it. I have people now that are moving down from Michigan, and they have a house to sell. And she reached out to me in November and said, "We're thinking." He's a teacher, and I said, she goes, "We're thinking about coming down there. We've always vacationed at Hilton Head, and we just love it." And I told her, I said, I think it's a great decision. Obviously, it's an outdoor playground here, and the Southern way of life. People wave because they just want to acknowledge you're alive.
Yep.
Which is so wonderful. But she asked me. She said, "Okay, so my husband is probably he'll start in 2025 fall semester. So we were thinking about maybe coming down for spring break or something like that." And I said, No. First of all, talk to me about your current home. She's like, "Well, we need to sell it." And I said, "Right. So you need to sell your home in order to buy a home here. He needs to get a job, right? So you're going to have all these irons in the fire, and you're going to try to navigate that." I said, "You need to come down as soon as possible. And I think that your best route is going to be new construction, because usually with new construction, they'll take a contingency. You can find your community. I always say, find your community, then find the home. And now you've got your landing spot, right? And now the pieces of the puzzle can start to fall into place. And I'm there to help put those pieces in place."
I like that, because finding the community, I feel like too, is one of the most important things, because even though you've obviously picked the area that you like, right?
Yeah,
but the different areas of Bluffton, Hardyville, Ridgeland, Hilton Head, Okeechobee, et cetera, they're all so close, but also can be so different.
So different cult. I mean, each community has its own culture, and there's a community that will go unnamed that my husband had his sight set on, and we went there so many times, driving through the community, trying to make it ours. And we just never got the vibe. Nobody would wave to us. Everybody who was walking had their head down, and I was just like, I'm not feeling it. And he said, I'm not either. So we ended up, I had mentioned that we went to May River Preserve for that half acre, because they had a half acre. That was a great community, 109 homes in there. Wonderful. But we're both golfers. So we ended up over at Riverton Point, which is a Toll Brother community. And it was funny because the very first, we were stalking that place, and they weren't open yet. They were not open. We found somebody. We would go there. We found somebody who said, "We think we're going to open around May." This was 3 years ago. And we were like, okay. So we were watching, and suddenly they were like, "Yeah, we're open." So we called for an appointment, and they told us they were already booked for the day. And my husband says, "What time was your first appointment?" And the salesperson said 10 o'clock. And he said, "We'll be there at 8:30. And thankfully, the salesperson said, "Okay, I'll be there at 8:30. And we literally walked in. Here's our deposit. Here's the lot we want. And here's the floor plan we want. I swear it was the easiest sale for this guy. So we love it. We love it over there.
That's awesome. What is your favorite golf course that you've played here?
I like Old South. I think it's beautiful to play that. But I will tell you, Riverton Point is that course is unlike any other course here in the Lowcountry.
I've yet to play it.
It's a Jack Nicklaus course. The fairways are undulating. The greens are really, really difficult. So even the best golfers. So we had the Big East golf tournament there the last 2 years. So 2 years ago, it was both the men's and the women's. Last year, it was the men's.
Okay.
I spoke to one of the coaches, and he was like, I want to be back here every year. I love this course. And then the women will be here next month.
Oh.
We had a USGA qualifier there last year, and they're coming back this year as well.
For which event?
For the U.S. Open, maybe it's a qualifier for the Open.
That's awesome.
I know, it's really cool. So I love playing that course because it humbles me. Did I mention I'm an overachiever?
What's your handicap?
I'm pleading the fifth on that. It's really bad. It's really bad. And this is somebody who played varsity softball.
Okay.
I played recreational softball, varsity softball in high school. You know, I played in Arizona just as recent as 5 years ago, co-ed team. I love it. And, you know, my mom played softball, so I was good. I used to be an umpire, etc. Golf, like I said, it humbles me for sure. So
it is a very interesting sport.
It is, for sure.
Spent a lot of time on golf courses.
Yeah. So I just decided, Connor, to give myself grace. It's like, you know what? It's the women out there are just wonderful. And the Women's Golf Association, I'm the secretary for the board. The camaraderie, the friendliness, the laid back. They're serious golfers, of course, but even the most serious golfers are so warm and welcoming.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually huge.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the really hardcore people are not.
Intimidating. Yeah. I had a really hard time a couple years ago. I was playing 18 holes and I got partnered with one of the top two golfers. And I just made a complete fool of myself. But that morning I had found out that one of the teachers from the high school in Arizona that I taught at had passed away unexpectedly. So I was grappling with that. And anyway, we're like on the 14th green and I think I 4-putted it, which is, you know, just awful. I just wanted to go home, right? Take my toys and go home.
Yep.
And I said that. And the woman looked at me and she came over and gave me a big hug. And she said, Deb, it's just golf. It's just golf. And I'm like, I was so touched by that. And of course, the floodgates want to open, right? And I'm trying to keep back the tears. I'm like, this is just golf. I got it, you know. So anyway. Yeah.
Are you excited for the Heritage?
I am. Yes.
That's such a great event every year.
It is.
I love that course. That course.
Yeah, I haven't played that course.
That course humbles me.
I'll have to try to see how it compares to Riverton.
It is probably some of the tightest fairways that I've played. And now I see why before they made it like one of those PGA Tour mandatory events.
Yeah.
That, like big hitters would never come there because it is not forgiving if you miss the fairway. Oh,
yeah. See, it's not for me. It's not for me. I'm a long ball hitter being softball, right? Softball player. But I'm very errant. I love
to shape my shots, and Bubba Watson was like my inspiration when I started playing. So I like to play some very aggressive shot shapes, and having very tight fairways doesn't really help my game. Yeah. So it's just a lot of long irons off the tees, and the greens are hard as a rock. Oh gosh. But some of the smoothest putting that I've ever had in my entire life. Yeah. So. Yeah. I'll have to try that. It's fun. All right. So we're going to go into a quick rapid fire section to wrap this up. Okay. So these are questions that I ask everybody. Okay. And I already know the answer to one of them. So we're just going to skip that. It's normally golf or tennis, but. Oh, gotcha. I'm going to assume golf is your answer. Yes. The next question, beach or boat? Boat. Okay. Surf or turf?
Regarding for food?
Yeah.
Surf.
Okay. And what is your favorite restaurant to go to?
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question. I like to go to the Bluffton room
Okay.
for their burger. And you can't get that in the dining room. And you know the Bluffton room is in the top 10% of the restaurants in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So there's a little VIP insider information about how to get the burger in the restaurant.
Okay.
But I like to go there. I love Madison's up in Port Royal. Old Bull Tavern.
Okay.
In Beaufort. I like Sorry Charlie's in Savannah.
Okay.
So I know I'm forgetting a few, but
all very good choices.
Yeah.
Okay. It is a perfect 80-degree spring day. Where do we find Deb?
oh my gosh,
Your ideal day.
my ideal day. Honestly, it's probably just with my dogs, probably playing golf. Just 9 holes. 18 holes is very time consuming, and by the 14th hole, I am like wiped. But probably going for a walk with my dogs, working in the yard, go up to the Waterview Grill at Riverton, have some maybe adult beverages, watching the golfers come in on the 9th and 18th holes, and having some dinner. And we built a pergola in our backyard.
Okay.
We're on the 7th fairway, so we have a really nice view of the green, which I'm so thankful for. But we built this pergola out there, and we just put all kinds of furniture out. It's so nice. I told my husband, I'm like, I think I'm really liking it out here.
It sounds delightful.
Yeah.
Do you read?
Not particularly, no.
Okay. Because the normally question is the last full book that you read.
The last full book that I read, I really got into the Alex Cross books for a while. But no, it's hard for me. If it doesn't like, grab me in the first couple chapters, then I get bored.
Okay. And favorite country that you visited?
Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite food in Mexico?
Ooh, favorite food would be street tacos, like authentic street tacos with al pastor, with cilantro and onion, and I make a really good tomatillo salsa. So something like that.
I'm the same way.
Are you?
Yeah.
Well, sure, with your way. Yeah.
Street tacos are my jam.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've been at all inclusive resorts, and God love my husband. He just tags along, and he's just following me around.
Yeah.
But we'll be bellied up to the street taco, cars going by, everything, and then we could be eating at the resort because it's all inclusive. But we'd rather have the authentic experience, and it's so good.
I'm hungry now.
I know, right?
And
What time is it? It is almost
12:30.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go get tacos on my way to the island. That's funny. Well, Deb, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
I look forward to doing more work with you.
Likewise.
Yeah. And thank you for listening to Behind the Dunes podcast. Again, I'm your host, Connor, with Deb Thompson. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, guys.